In the meantime, let's begin with talking about Trump's second impeachment, which is a strange thing because it turns out that they're going to be impeaching a private citizen, which, I mean, the jury is, I think, still currently out on that, whether that can actually happen. But anyway, the looming threat of the impeachment, because it's on the horizon and it's going to be happening fairly soon, or at least the decision will be made, has meant that the politicians involved are afraid of a second attack on the US Capitol. Apparently there has been a surge in threats against lawmakers, and this has forced the National Guard to remain there. Somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 National Guard troops are going to be remaining there because they're terrified. The politicians have become a victim class, in fact. But anyways, the Independent reports. Excuse me. This is going to be the case because they have apparently received numerous threats against lawmakers. The Senate trial will begin on the 8th of February, marking the first time in American history a former president has faced an impeachment trial after leaving office. Naturally, this is couched in the language of Trump inciting his protesters to storm the Capitol. This is a narrative with which I personally disagree. We've got
factual video evidence.
Yeah,
disagrees.
I was going to get to the. It's only because the evidence seems to show the opposite. Thankfully, Republicans are actually in the Senate now saying this, saying actually, whoa, hold on. He didn't say storm in there and lynch the senators or anything. He actually said peacefully march to the Capitol and make your voices heard, which is not incitement to violence. It's not even vaguely outside of the realm of normalcy for US politics. And so the narrative, like the Independent and everyone really on the left is presenting, is just false. And the riot, which left 5 people dead, well, one person was shot by a Secret Service agent. One officer died from wounds sustained in the melee, but then 3 other people died of unrelated health complications, presumably because of their age. So this is being completely over-egged in an effort to essentially create a kind of validating narrative, which I don't believe actually exists. But 130 people are currently facing federal charges for their alleged involvement in the Capitol riots, and the FBI have said that they've received more than 100,000 pieces of digital evidence that have been submitted across the country about people who allegedly took part in the attacks. And you may have seen many of these on social media being young people dobbing in their boomer parents for taking part in these protests and what I guess we could term a riot, even though it didn't seem very riotous as far as these things go. But that's only because, again, the previous examples of riots that we have, such as Black Lives Matter and Antifa, looked a lot worse, in my opinion. But anyway, some of the people include those who allegedly made death threats against lawmakers, including a Texas man facing 5 criminal charges for his role in the riots. According to court documents, Garrett Miller seemingly referred to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in a tweet when he wrote "assassinate AOC." His lawyer has since made the comment that was the comment was made in the heat of the moment, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez herself has suggested they do not feel safe returning to work, citing the numerous threats while raising questions about whether any of the Republican counterparts were somehow involved in coordination. So AOC is trying to turn politicians into a victim class. Politicians, they're just at the mercy of the public. They're just being persecuted by them. They can't do their jobs in peace.
If only they had some power.
Oh, well, anyway.
If only they had 7,000 armed guards at the Capitol.
Yeah, if only there was something about accountability that maybe they were concerned about. But either way, right? I mean, like, for being serious, if she is afraid to do her job and feels that she can't do her job, then really she should resign, especially given everything that's going on and the fact that I would consider her to be one of the prime instigators in the radicalization of American political life. She is incredibly forthright. And then now that there's... I don't agree that it's acceptable to send death threats, obviously, but one can also say that, okay, it's not right to send death threats, but if you're going to be as divisive and inflammatory as AOC is, and this goes for the entire Bernie wing of the Democratic Party, the Squad, Bernie, and all of their sort of radical left-wing supporters, then you are kind of inciting it yourself, I would suggest. In fact, a lot of Democratic rhetoric has been openly incitement, in my opinion, and thankfully we'll get to some of it in a bit, because thankfully some of the Republicans are finally calling this out. But anyway, the police are currently investigating. One of the people being targeted by the FBI is Brandon Straka, who was the organizer and originator of the Walk Away campaign, a previous Democrat who decided the Democratic Party had gone nuts and had left. Now, I haven't seen any evidence that has been claimed about Brandon Straka, about screenshots of tweets that were reportedly posted. Now, this isn't to say that he didn't post these things. I'm just saying I haven't seen the evidence, and we all know how easy it is to fake screenshots. So I would like to see some proof. But basically, he was saying things like, for 6 to 8 weeks, everyone on the right has been saying 1776, and if Congress moves forward, it will mean revolution. So Congress moves forward, patriots storm the Capitol, and now everyone is virtue signaling their embarrassment about what has happened. Basically, the continual claim is that he was encouraging it, shouting, "We're going in, go, 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 take it," things like this, basically inciting people to go in. Like I said, I've not seen any evidence that he did that, but, I mean, maybe. To be honest with you, I always thought the Walk Away campaign was utterly milquetoast and in no danger of doing anything, so this was surprising, frankly, and seemed kind of out of character. I mean, I'd followed them generally, and again, it was really, really bland, frankly. It seemed totally safe. And to be honest with you, that seemed like good optics and good political strategy for them to create a very safe space for Democrats to actually leave this sort of thing. But anyway, in response to all of this is, again, the pressure is building up. And I wasn't really expecting Tulsi Gabbard to come out as strongly as she has, but I really, really enjoyed this. We can play this clip. This is fantastic.
The mob that stormed the Capitol on January 6th to try to stop Congress from carrying out its constitutional responsibilities were behaving like domestic enemies of our country. But let's be clear. The John Brennans, Adam Schiffs, and the oligarchs in big tech who are trying to undermine our constitutionally protected rights and turn our country into a police state with KGB-style surveillance are also domestic enemies, and much more powerful and therefore dangerous than the mob that stormed the Capitol. Now, John Brennan said,
"So I know looking forward that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas, where they germinate in different parts of the country and they gain strength, and it brings together an unholy alliance frequently of religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians."
Now, President Biden, I call upon you and all members of Congress from both parties to denounce these efforts by the likes of Brennan and others to take away our civil liberties that are endowed to us by our Creator and guaranteed in our Constitution. If you don't stand up to these people now, then our country will be in great peril.
Pretty good statement, I thought. Don't see anything that I could possibly disagree with there. And you'd have to
libertarians.
Yeah, even libertarians. But like we said previously, actually, MAGA is just going to be tarred as white supremacists and all sorts of names, and they will be just considered ostracized.
But I'm just thinking in my head, like the libertarian movement and the libertarians don't actually get coincided with MAGA that often.
Not really.
Like, they're definitely a separate group. I mean,
Yeah.
Their candidate got quite a lot of electoral votes.
They have a separate party. They have
yeah,
interests,
but it doesn't matter. Just they're right wingers. They got to go.
Yeah, exactly. Even libertarians. And it's okay. Well, I mean, if they're concerned about civil liberties, then maybe they will have to be. They'll have to chime in. But yeah. So basically, Tulsi, as reported by the Daily Wire, had also gone after a recent bill by Schiff, which was ostensibly intended to curb domestic terrorism. And she said, look, what are the characteristics we're looking for in building this profile of a potential extremist? What are we talking about? Religious extremists? Are we talking about Christians, evangelical Christians? What is religious extremist? Is it someone who is pro-life? Where do you take this? And of course, she's right. This appears to be like an opening of what I guess we could term the domestic war on terror. And the previous war on terror is, I mean, the very notion of a war on an abstract concept is ridiculous and therefore has no end.
Islamic terror is the largest terrorist groups in the world are Islamic terror groups in aggregate, not a singular one, but in aggregate. Sure. And they cause the most deaths of any terror group. A domestic war on terror doesn't make sense just on that basis alone. Like, where are the domestic terrorists
Well,
for
yeah.
the US?
Well, then they're not going to the capital, are they? They've got
Apparently they're in
7,000 troops there.
Portland,
Yeah,
so-
exactly. Apparently they're in Portland. But even then, the idea of declaring war on an abstract concept is philosophically incoherent. You can't declare a war on something that isn't an actor, and you can't end up creating a peace with something that has no propensity or method by which to agree to one. So the concept of terror, in the same way like the concept of violence or the concept of charity, these concepts exist independently of any one particular group or movement. But anyway, Rand Paul gave a fantastic speech on the floor where he it's a 4-minute clip that Mike Cernovich tweeted out. And it was genuinely, like he says, world class. It was absolutely fantastic. We'll play about the first 30 seconds or minute or so of it to give you an impression of the sort of tone and tenor of it. He really laid into them.
Incited the reprehensible behavior and violence of January 6th when he said, I know everyone here will soon march to the Capitol to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Peacefully and patriotically, hardly words of violence. But what of Democrat words? What of Democrat incitement to violence? No Democrat will honestly ask whether Bernie Sanders incited the shooter that nearly killed Steve Scalise and volunteer coach. The shooter nearly pulled off a massacre. I was there because he fervently believed the false and inflammatory rhetoric spewed by Bernie and other Democrats, such as the Republican health care plan for the uninsured is that you die. As this avowed Bernie supporter shot Steve Scalise, nearly killing him, and shot one of our coaches and 2 or 3 of our staff, he screamed, this is for health care.
I mean, that is like a progressive jihadi, isn't it? Running armed into what was a baseball game, I believe, screeching, this is for healthcare, and then shooting a bunch of Republicans? Like, it's comical.
Well, what a weird version of Allah Akbar.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Okay, Akbar.
it's not funny, but it's just,
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous.
He went on to say, was it Maxine Waters?
Yeah.
Saying that if you see a Republican senator
Yeah.
form a crowd, harass them in
Yeah.
public, and he was like, well, if that reaches, if Trump reaches the level of incitement, you're certainly also going to jail, Maxine.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right.
Yeah, and he was basically threatening them all to go after them all for exactly the same sort of thing.
And he would be right to do it.
And he would be right to do it because they went much further. And there's actually a demonstrable link between Bernie Sanders, as he pointed out, saying, Republican healthcare plan is for people to die, and then someone screeching healthcare is greatest and then shooting people.
But just to say, I actually disagree with the idea that should be enough for an incitement. Like, personally, I don't think that reaches it. I don't think the US law even reaches it.
But
at that point.
I agree, but if anything is going to reach it, then
Yeah, it was
if
the point
anything
of,
Trump did.
if Trump saying peacefully do
Yeah.
it is reaching the point of incitement, Jesus Christ, your entire party is in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. The radical wing of the Democrats is totally responsible for way worse.
Threatening them with their own standards is what
Yes, and they should. They should absolutely be held to their own standards. Rand Paul then he tweeted out afterwards, I think it was, or it might have been before, that he objects to this unconstitutional sham of an impeachment trial, and I will force a vote on whether the Senate can hold a trial of a private citizen. Republicans should reject any process that involves a partisan Democrat in the chair instead of a Chief Justice. This amendment was shot down 55 to 45, but what it did is reveal a fault line in the chamber, which showed that the vote for impeachment for Trump will likely fail because only 5 of the Republicans defected to the Democrats.
But also, if you want to take it literally and get rid of the politics for a second, he's literally saying, do you people think we should be able to incite a private citizen? And 45 of them are saying no.
Indict.
Well, in which case, 45
Or
are saying
impeach,
we shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
In which case, then they'd also have to subsequently agree, in the case of Donald Trump, who was a private citizen, you can't impeach him.
Yeah. Mitt Romney happens to have been one of those people who defected to the Democrats.
Yeah.
Shock and surprise.
Apparently, Mitt Romney also did it for the last impeachment. I don't know why he's in the Republican Party still, but
Yeah.
you told
He's
me.
clearly a Democrat. Get rid of him. But yeah, so the motion, as Vox inform us, was about the constitutionality of voting to impeach a non-sitting president. You need a 2/3 vote in the Senate, and without the support of at least 17 Republicans, the 50-person Democratic caucus will not have the numbers to convict Trump. So Trump will once again not be impeached. So he'll have come quite close to this brush because only 5 of them defected, so it's unlikely that the full 17 are going to next time. So it looks like Trump will be able to run in 2024 if things are going as they go, which would be nice. He's not going to start a new party, which is sensible, and he's going to spend his time primarying rhinos on a rhino safari, which will be fun. So, yeah, did you have an image you want to put up here?
Oh, I just wanted to put the image up of Mitt Romney and Trump.
Oh, dear, Mitt.
God, could you imagine if Mitt Romney became president?
I don't want to see another Democratic president.
I asked John about this, and he says, "No, I can't." Like,
no. But the centipede has got past you again, Mitt.